Researcher notes. I decided to share my amazing story about having a doppelganger. My last name is quite rare, so one day I decided to check how common my unique family name is among internet users. I entered my last name into a search engine and was amazed by the result. I found a girl whose appearance was astonishingly similar to my own. What increased my astonishment even more was the complete match of our full names, zodiac signs, years, and months of birth. But that was only the beginning of the strange similarities between us. During our conversation, it turned out that our life paths also intersected remarkably closely. We practiced the same sport, both achieved the title of Candidate for Master of Sports, and received education in related fields. Moreover, we got married almost simultaneously, with both of our spouses having similar last names, and then literally in the same month and year, we both gave our families baby boys. But the story of my surreal discovery does not end there. Even the names of our hometowns sound almost identical. Later, I began to receive letters from that girl's friends, who had confused us and were genuinely amazed by our striking resemblance. Each time, they expressed their embarrassment with words like, "Wow, you really do look incredibly alike." This unusual chain of coincidences fell to my lot, making me ponder the mysticism of life and the power of fate.
One day, my adult daughter gave me a pair of new earrings, saying that she felt uncomfortable wearing them after breaking up with her boyfriend. She added, "I don't need them at all now. You can take them." Since the jewelry was completely new, I accepted my daughter's gift and immediately put them on. I wore the earrings calmly for a month until one evening something inexplicable happened. It happened late at night when I hadn't turned off the light yet and was settled down to read a book. Feeling a tickling sensation in my ear, I instinctively touched it with my hand, and suddenly one of the earrings slipped off my lobe and rang as it hit the wall. Startled, I jumped out of bed and began frantically searching for the earring, looking under the furniture, shaking out the sheets and blanket, checking every little crevice. But, alas, the earring disappeared without a trace. I carefully took off the remaining second earring and gently placed it in a special jewelry box where my favorite accessories and costume jewelry were stored. I decided to keep it company with other pieces, hoping a miracle might still happen. What if the lost half somehow turned up? However, exactly a month later, fate played a cruel joke on me once again. Preparing for an important celebration, I opened the cherished jewelry box and discovered that the second earring had mysteriously vanished, as if it had dissolved into thin air. A whole year has passed since then, yet no one has found the lost earrings. Was it a mysterious trick of fate, or just an ordinary household mishap? To this day, it remains a mystery.
The story of the inexplicable circumstances surrounding the sudden disappearance of my wife's beloved handbag remains one of those life situations that are difficult to explain rationally. It all began when our car was at a service center in another city, and we ourselves lived in a small village. I had to walk home from work, stopping by the company where my wife worked, so that we could return together. Her handbag was with her, and I clearly remember this fact. By the way, it was on that very day that I handed my wife my own passport, as some important documents needed to be processed. I had always relied on my wife's attentiveness and meticulousness, so I entrusted an important document to my beloved without hesitation. In addition to my passport, her own personal documents, including her passport, as well as a couple of bank cards, were in the bag. Returning home, we quickly had some tea, after which I took the bus back to the neighboring town to pick up the repaired car, while my wife went to the kindergarten to pick up our child. Before leaving the house, She had left her handbag on the couch, deciding to leave the home briefly without her main accessory. However, shortly after returning home, my wife's mood changed sharply. She looked confused and distraught. It turned out that the handbag had suddenly disappeared, as if it had dissolved into thin air. We conducted a thorough search of the entire place, even revisiting the kindergarten, but the search proved fruitless. No one had noticed anything suspicious, neither the kindergarten staff nor the neighbors. Then I attempted to find out the cause of what had happened outside the house, inspecting the fence palisade and the area around the building. But the tracks in the snow gave no indication of anyone else being nearby. Despite the obvious absurdity of the situation, it was decided to call the police immediately. After long formal procedures, we were left to wait for a resolution to the problem. Having received new identity documents in exchange for the old ones, I noticed one curious detail. It turned out that the last 3 digits of my old passport number were a series of consecutive 6s. Previously, this little detail had not attracted any attention at all, but now there was involuntarily a feeling of superstitious fear and a sense of some otherworldly interference. The handbag and its contents remained unfound to this day, turning into an unsolved family story full of mystique and uncertainty.
My husband and I often dive into memories of our youth, animatedly discussing the bright moments of the past, places we've been, meetings with friends, amusing incidents. Usually, such conversations bring smiles and the joy of rediscovering each other. But once, during one of these recollections, a situation occurred that stayed in our memory for a long time. Everything began quite peacefully. My husband shared his impressions, telling detailed stories about events of long ago. But gradually, it became clear that our versions of the same episodes were starting to differ noticeably. At first, the discrepancies seemed minor, but then the differences became increasingly striking. Instead of the usual unity of opinion, a real debate began. Each side insisted on being right, bringing various arguments and facts. My husband firmly insisted that the events happened in a certain way, naming familiar people, exact dates, and circumstances. His confidence in his own words caused me slight unease, as I clearly remembered the events differently. This led to a minor conflict. He began to get angry, accusing me of forgetfulness and ignoring obvious facts. Trying to avoid unnecessary arguments, I attempted to yield to my husband, admitting that I might indeed have forgotten some details. But inside, a troubling feeling grew, caused by the awareness of the significance of the differences in our memories. Later, reflecting on what had happened, I realized that our perception of the same moments from the past differed greatly. For my husband, the same episodes appeared in a different order, included different characters, sometimes diverging from my own understanding. This experience evoked mixed feelings: anxiety, surprise, and quiet admiration for the human mind's ability to distort reality. Sometimes I wonder whether there might have been 2 parallel versions of reality, where each event occurred independently of the other. However, it is impossible to confirm or disprove this hypothesis, and thus, the mysterious discrepancies remain for us a matter of philosophical reflection and mutual conjecture. A person is the sum of their habits. We get used to buying groceries and things in certain places, a usual arrangement of priorities. I am no exception. I no longer remember what I needed to buy, but it wasn't available in the stores where I usually shop, so I went to a grocery store I had never been to, quite far from where I live. I enter the store, get in line, and suddenly a woman runs up to me and says that she had taken the spot in line and that it's now my turn, and she wondered why I had been so long, thinking I wouldn't come at all. I looked at her in bewilderment and said that I didn't know her and was seeing her for the first time. Then all hell broke loose. She started yelling so loudly that I got scared, accusing me of every possible sin, calling me an ungrateful creature, claiming I borrowed money from her, that I supposedly knew her, and so on. A crowd of onlookers gathered, started asking her if I had even returned the money to her. At that moment, the way I felt cannot be expressed in words. My attempts to make her understand that she was mistaken only caused an even louder scream. She said that I was wearing things I had worn before. I asked what her acquaintance's name was and introduced myself, to which she began to scream even louder and accuse me of making up a name and refusing to get acquainted with her. The only thing that came to mind was to leave as quickly as possible and put an end to this circus. One day, comfortably settled on a soft couch, I began taking off my favorite earrings, ready to rest after a busy day. Suddenly, unnoticed by myself, one of the earrings slipped from my fingers and swiftly fell onto the parquet floor. Habitually listening for the familiar metallic clink, I instantly stood up and carefully looked around, trying to determine the exact location of the fallen jewel. Holding the other earring in my hand, I dropped to my knees and slowly crawled along the floor, meticulously examining the space with my eyes and hands. Every crack in the parquet, every corner of the room I scrutinized with special attention, hoping to discover the misplaced accessory. I crawled closer to the couch, gently lifted the fabric of the soft upholstery, trying to see if the item had hidden beneath it. Then I pushed aside the heavy piece of furniture a little further, inspecting the area behind it. The tension was rising, but still there was no sign of the earring. Desperate and feeling irritated, I angrily grabbed the only remaining earring and, with an accurate throw, sent it flying after the first one, loudly saying aloud, "Find your sister!" Annoyed by the situation, I approached the couch again and automatically reached my hand under it, wanting to make sure that the thrown earring landed at least near its lost counterpart. To my great surprise, my fingers touched a hard object, which turned out to be both earrings, firmly linked together. Silently pulling the find out, I experienced a mix of emotions: relief, laughter, and slight bewilderment at the absurd adventure. Thus ended my little adventure with the two earrings, demonstrating their ability to unite at the most unpredictable moment.